Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of 15 Minutes With. Some of you might be asking, what is 15 Minutes With? What is its purpose? What are its goals? 15 Minutes With is a show about jail and prison. 15 Minutes With doesn't glorify jail or prison. In fact, the purpose of 15 Minutes With is to deter not only young people, but people of all ages from going to or winding up in jails or even prison. Do you know that here in America, the home of the free, there are over 2.3 million people incarcerated? Over 1/3 of incarcerated women worldwide are in fact locked up right here in the United States. Over 13 million people are arrested each year. That is more than the population of Los Angeles and New York City combined. It's a lot of people. From what I just said, you're probably thinking that 15 Minutes With is an anti-police or anti-justice show. If that is what you're thinking, you couldn't be further from the truth. The police risk their lives out there helping others with just pretty much handcuffs, pepper spray, a gun, and their wits or their street smarts every day. There are so many laws, some antiquated on the books, that an average person commits 3 felonies a day, and our courts are showing it. So are our jails and prisons with an overload. 15 Minutes With takes you both behind the walls and the razor wire and out on the streets to talk to inmates who are currently incarcerated and some who have been released from confinement and are living out here in the free world. It is our hope that once you hear their true stories about what the system in jails and prisons are like, as well as the horrendous and outright dangerous conditions on the inside, that those of you who may have be headed down that long and lonely road that leads right to the inside may have second thoughts and think twice before winding up inside those walls and having to live in those conditions. It's our hope you choose the life out here in the free world. Now, here is this episode of 15 Minutes With.
You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. This call is from
Drew Peterson?
an inmate at a federal prison. This call is being recorded and is subject to monitoring. Hang up to decline the call or to accept. Dial 5 now. If you wish to block...
Good morning, Drew.
Morning, Joe. How you doing?
I'm okay. I don't know if you thought about anything last night, but I actually came up with some stuff.
Basically, just be careful with your choices. You know, my problems come, I led a very clean life, purposely stayed out of trouble because I wanted to be a policeman. And my problems came from my matrimonial choices.
Right. Like when we were talking yesterday, you actually said milk and cookies, which I've never heard that term before. But I've heard, other terms, but never that one.
Right.
But, it goes to show, though, that, somebody can have a really good life. You can still wind up in prison in the long run. One of the things that I definitely think that you can help me with is especially with young people. They don't realize what they're getting into. They start hanging around with the wrong people. I'm sure that you saw this, through your work as well. They hang around with the wrong crowd. They start doing drugs. They start, doing things wrong. And the next thing you know...
criminal justice system is a nightmare.
Exactly. And I don't think...
Worst part of it.
Right. Well, I know that they handle kids before the age... Well, Connecticut may be a little bit different than out your way. Up until the age of 16, they're handled in the juvenile system. Once they hit 16, they're in the adult system. And one's built on, I'll call it rehabilitation. The other one's built on punishment. So it's two totally different ends of the spectrum.
Right. No,
so,
it's 17. But the thing is they can petition a minor.
Mm-hmm.
Try him as an adult in a circumstance.
Right, if the crime's serious enough, yeah.
So.
And this is the thing. I don't think kids, and even some young adults, I don't think they don't get through their heads that you can make a decision now, and it's a poor decision, but it can affect you for the rest of their lives. And not just, I'm not even talking, just the prison aspect. I'm speaking about afterwards as well, because once you're convicted, try to get a job, and you're looking at that popping up, and then...
Call is from a federal prison.
You own it. The biggest thing I impress on my 2 boys, my middle boys, are 24 and 25, and what I try to impress upon them most is don't get DUIs, don't drink and drive, because a DUI could be more nightmarish than an armed robbery charge.
One thing I don't think people realize as well, when you get into the system, I mean, it's a little bit different than the state because the states aren't really that big, but especially the federal system, they can move you to wherever they want. That has an effect on whether you actually maintain, whether you get visitation or not. Because, if they move you, say, 500 miles away, that's a stress on, your family coming to see you. That's the other thing is, too, people don't realize that when you make a decision that puts you, into prison or even in jail, that's not just affecting the individual, that's affecting their family as well.
Oh, sure, without a doubt. In here, you're going to see family dwindle away from you.
I kind of think that, yeah, I mean, you would know. I mean, the other thing is, too, I don't think people realize the actual aspect of what, prison's like. And I'm not just talking about, looking over your back because something might happen. I'm talking about having, just for you. I mean, what's a typical day for, I mean, I know you said you work in the institution. What's a typical day for you?
Basically, I wake up about 5:15. It's like Groundhog Day in here. It's the same thing day after day. I wake up at 5:15. I make my bed. I wash my face. I brush my teeth. Then I go to what's called short line. That's where all the employees go in and eat before the rest of the masses. Start my day in the laundry. My day in the laundry is sorting, folding clothes, pushing carts around. I mean, it's just like totally different than what I've done before. But basically, the job keeps me sane. Keeps me out of trouble.
Right. I would think. I'm sure it's not paying like it is out here on the street either.
Everybody's got some sort of a hustle going on. Whether it's gambling or making booze, or it's quite a society to live in and watch.
Right.
Watch it all happening. So if somebody's got a problem with you, they may want to pull you in one of the cells and square up with you, or they may come up behind you and stab you in the neck a bunch of times.
Right.
I actually watched a guy get his nose bit off. Yeah, a guy working in the kitchen. I used to be a clerk in the kitchen. And I was sitting at my desk, and I refused to give a guy a piece of chicken. The guy grabbed his head. I thought he was going down to kiss him. He turns around, and his nose is gone.
Wow. That's the thing. People don't realize, you're putting yourself into a situation like that when you...
I'm in a dropout yard. The guys that tell me stories about guys that are in active yards, and what I mean by active is there has active gangs going on in the yard. They have to do what's called putting in work. They're told to do something, or go beat a guy, or go stab a guy, or something. If they don't do it, it's going to happen to them. Very ugly environment. My life expectancy on an active yard is probably about 15 minutes being an ex-policeman.
That's what I was going to ask you too. I mean, with your former employment, going into an institution, I would assume, I don't want to say marked, but I can see people, having a problem with that. But I mean, the other thing I was going to ask you, because you were telling me, yesterday when we talked, that you had experience on the, the county jail side, the state prison side, and then the federal prison side. I mean, do you find any differences in that as far as the reaction?
Oh, the biggest difference is, well, I was always protected in the state prison. They kept me isolated from everybody. I had a single cell. I took a shower by myself. After a while, I mean, at first you're showering with 20 other guys with 25 stalls. I mean, it's just like, it's ugly. But anyway, the prison in Illinois prison system was dirty and crap and urine smeared all over the walls, boogers everywhere. It was just filthy. It was built to Civil War with Civil War technology. And right across from the Mississippi River, the river would flood over into the bottom tiers. There'd be snakes and rats. It was ugly. Food was terrible. That's
crazy.
Coming to the Fed, it's all clean. It's well organized. It's a lot better run institution. It's better. And whoever was responsible for sending me here, I thank them. So I went from like a terrible environment to a less terrible environment.
It's like you're still locked up, but at least it's semi-bearable. Yeah.
But the state is you had your own television.
Well, the other thing is, too, different things with the state and I don't know how Illinois was, but Connecticut, these guys, and, I mean, I can understand the, being locked up part, but, Connecticut, these guys can, purchase TVs, they can, some of the, radios, stuff like that. I mean, I know in the federal system, you can't have a TV, I guess it's all day room, and you can purchase a radio or MP3 player. I mean, pretty much everything is a group type, setting. You can't, have your own, stuff per se in your cell, correct?
Well, in the Fed, we can have a radio, and you need a radio because there's 6 TVs out on the gallery.
Mm-hmm.
And you can watch one of the 6 TVs, but you have to have a radio to tune in the frequency of that TV so you can sit there and watch it.
So basically they take the speaker out of the TV set kind of thing.
Right. So you have to have that if you want to watch TV. I mean, radio sometimes will keep you sane, too, to just be in touch with the outside world,
Well, that's what I think really needs to happen, too, is if you are, incarcerated, you have to maintain, some sort of contact with the outside because you don't know what's going on. And somebody I had spoke to, several months ago that was in there, and this is before I even started putting this together, they had told me that, in prison, it's like a never-ending cycle. Nothing changes. You can have guys that were there 20 years ago, and it's the same thing now. But then when they get out, the technology is all new, and they have to adjust, and it's pretty hard. So
I was talking to people like that just the other day, and it's just like the cars are different, things on television are different. I mean, it's just like the way people dress is different. So it's like stepping out and going into a culture shock. Going from years of prison and remembering one things one way, and all of a sudden you're stepping out and things are different. So your family's different, your kids are growing up. They may or may not want to have anything to do with you. I mean, there's a lot of things going on with a lot of people, and a lot of guys just want to get out and get a job, and society makes it hard for them.
That's what I was talking about earlier. Once you got that conviction.
And it depends what you're convicted of. If you're a child molester, forget it.
Yeah.
Molesters in here have a rough way to go.
Mm-hmm.
And they make them sit at a separate table. And if a guy wants to pull what's called a check-in move,
mm-hmm.
to the shoe, he'll go randomly pick out a child molester and start beating him up.
Really?
Or whatever. And that will get him in trouble. Get him in the special housing unit or the shoe, which is the hole,
mm-hmm.
and he's transferred from there. So he gets out of it, get out of here. A lot of times,
This call is from a federal prison.
they'll do that if they owe a lot of drug money or they owe a lot of gambling debts or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden they don't want to pay. They're in debt a couple $1,000. They can't pay it. Somebody's going to come after them. So it's like they check in. They do that by normally beating up a child molester or something.
Well, the other thing I was going to ask you too is, I mean, and when I was talking to you about it, yesterday, people don't realize, like you were bringing up how, your day goes with the, getting up at, 5:15, and it's pretty much a schedule or a routine. The other thing that people don't realize is, like food wise, other than the fact of if you're surviving on their food, other than the fact I'm sure the food sucks, but they don't. From everything I've heard, you really don't get enough food to sustain yourself, or you do sustain yourself, calorie-wise, but not.
Everybody's always hungry. I went to the shoe. In fact, I just got out of the shoe the whole about a couple weeks ago,
mm-hmm.
and I lost 30 pounds.
30 pounds?
Month's time, and I don't have 30 pounds to lose. I mean, I came out of there 175 pounds.
That's crazy.
Oh. But I went to the shoe because 2 guys broke into my locker. My cellmate and his buddy broke into my locker,
mm-hmm.
took all my commissary food, and while I was at work, they planted a knife and a rope inside my locker.
Crazy.
All the investigators, they came and found it and pulled me off my job, and I was basically in prison, arrested, and sent to the home.
That's what somebody had told me too. I always asked, how can you get arrested in jail? You know, here we go again.
You go to jail.
So, but Drew, I really appreciate you taking the time to tell me this. I mean, again, you know, in the event that you saw a kid that was going to screw up, I mean, what would your words be to them, you know, as far as, you know, messing up?
I would just basically explain to them there are other options, you know, because the other options aren't as cool as getting in trouble, realize the consequences, and they're cutting us off.
I hear you.
And I'll call you. When do you want me to call you next?
If you want, you can give me a call Saturday. Does that sound cool? This way I'm not...
Saturday at 9 a.m.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Drew.
Okay, Joe.
All right, bye-bye.